Hey everyone, Beardo here. You're watching Minutia Minute, and welcome to the rebooted edition of episode 60. Now, in the original version, I wasn't very satisfied. There weren't, like, the green screen didn't quite turn out, there were lines and problems, and I really wanted to have Greedo shoot first. And so as a result, I am bringing you this special edition of episode 60, in which I completely retool my whole plan. Now, in the original version of episode 60, I did say I was going to review Death of the Family kind of at the end, just kind of, you know, when everything was said and finished, kind of go through all of the books. I realized about an hour later that I couldn't do that because I just can't stop thinking about it. I gotta tell you about it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do Death of the Family videos week to week. Whenever any number of Batman books come out with Death in the Family, you're going to get a Death of the Family video for that week. And then on top of that, you'll have my regular reviews that'll be completely separate. My brain just sort of goes so narrow-minded with Batman. You know, once I'm thinking about Batman, that's what I'm thinking about. It's going to be hard for me to do my regular reviews while I'm talking about Batman as well. I don't want Batman to always be pick of the week, so just consider these a separate entity. Now, that said, the other thing with my other video was I was really constrained by the limits of technology at the time, and it turned out really, really choppy, and there were all kinds of like, you know, that was no good. So, as a result, I'm bringing you this special edition. And in this special edition, if you did watch the original version, you still want to see this edition, because I will be talking about Batman, Death of the Family Part 1, and the Batgirl Death of the Family prologue that came out this week as well. Now, we are going to kick it off with Death of the Family Part 1, Greg Capullo's and Scott Snyder's masterpiece that is Batman 13. First of all, let's just talk about this cover. Now, one of the reasons I decided to do episode 60 yesterday sort of on the fly was because I wanted to show off this cover. I was so excited about this. Now, this cover isn't necessarily, you know, I mean, it's not an art cover really, you know, it's not about the composition of it or anything like that, but what it is a really, really brilliant piece of graphic design. So Joker has been gone for a year in the New 52. We've had 12 issues come out, no Joker, except at the very beginning of, you know, Detective Comics issue 1, at the end of which we saw his face was ripped off. And so you get his ripped off face here really playing up that aspect and playing up the hype of that. And then underneath we have, you know, Batman, and you sort of have this grisly face just slap right over his face. And I find that to be a really brilliant marketing scheme, a good way to get people excited and still be kind of graphically interesting. I do like sort of the Batman Death of the Family along the side. Again, it's not necessarily a great piece of, you know, artwork necessarily, but it is a great piece of graphic design. And then, of course, it's trumped by, you know, having that across the board with Batgirl as well here. Anyway, I really think it's interesting. My big thing is, you know, we've got a lot of books here yet, and the question is what's going to happen next. Like, are they going to have one for Catwoman next month, or next week? And then, you know, Suicide Squad doesn't start until next month, so, you know, are they going to have this a month later just for Suicide Squad? Is this cover somehow going to evolve, or is it going to revert back to just sort of the regular covers? I'm just really curious to see how that's all going to kind of play out. Alright, anyway, of course we don't just want to talk about the cover here, we want to talk about the actual issue. And this was an absolutely phenomenal Scott Snyder issue. The thing that I think Death of the Family is really going to bring out of Scott Snyder, and why this is the perfect work for him, is you've got the Joker, who's back in town, and he is going to take out the entire family. He is going to bring down the Bat family and make it just Bruce Wayne, Batman, versus, you know, the Joker, Red Hood, Joseph Care, whatever. Now, that sounds like a really rudimentary story. It sounds not very interesting, you know, I mean, that's the thing with Joker stories, is it's hard to come up with a new Joker story that's really compelling. However, in the hands of someone like Scott Snyder, it really elevates that kind of an idea, because the thing that makes Scott Snyder a really good Batman writer is he really gets the dynamics of the characters. He really knows how to write. He knows what's inside their brains and how they interact with every different character within the Batman universe, of which there are many. So just as an example, in his first few pages, you get sort of this great moment of Harvey Bullock and James Gordon, and they're both talking about, and by the way, spoilers, guys. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. I'm gonna try not to spoil everything of this, but honestly, any one page of this, in my opinion, is a spoiler, because you do want to get a fresh read on this. So if you haven't read it, stop this video now. Okay, anyway, moving on. You have James Gordon and Harvey Bullock, and they're talking about, the places he hides his cigarettes throughout the city, and Barbara Gordon keeps finding the places and, eliminating them, basically trying to get him to quit smoking. And you not only have this good rapport between Harvey Bullock and James Gordon, that's very believable and feels like those characters, but you also have the subtext of his relationship with Barbara Gordon, and you get a really clear sense of who all three of those people are in just a couple of pages right here at the beginning. Of course, next you have the Joker come in. We'll talk about that shortly. You do get a sense of, Batman and Damian, and just sort of, how Batman and his universe of superheroes all kind of fit together as he kind of calls everybody in. At the same time, you're really getting a clear sense of, how they feel about the Joker, and really getting a sense of the menace of the Joker. And as you just continue on, like, this issue is just filled with fantastic character moments as we get to the big conclusion, which features Harley Quinn dressed as the Red Hood, intended to look like she's the Joker as the Red Hood, but again, she's just a decoy. Now, the shining achievement of this issue for me has to be the backup story. Is this backup story filler? Yes, it's in no way necessary to the story. However, what it does is it fills in kind of a lost moment from the main issue, and it's kind of like the backup story in Detective Comics 13, in the sense of you're taking this sort of side moment and expanding out, like, well, where did that moment come from? Now, in Detective Comics 13, it was completely pointless, because it was a character we were never going to see again. It didn't tell us anything really interesting about them, and it wasn't particularly well told. However, in this, you get to see the reunion of the Joker and Harley Quinn, and how she ends up being in that Red Hood mask at the end of the issue. And I gotta say, like, first of all, you've got illustrations by Jock, and I love it when Jock draws Batman. His covers are amazing. His interior work is especially amazing. It's just the perfect balance of, like, horror, sort of Ben Templesmith kind of artwork, but still being, very much comic book graphic storytelling looking. It's hard for me to really describe, but I really, really love the artwork. He has a really good sense of how to use just space. This is a great example of it right here. Space and color really comes out on this page. But what this backup story does do is it gives you not only does it give you their reunion, but it really illustrates the dysfunctional relationship that they have in a really, really powerful way. You really feel bad for Harley when you're reading this issue, but one of the aspects of their relationship that's been played up with, when Paul Dini created the character, is they do have this dysfunctional relationship, but because, of course, she was created for a kid's cartoon, you can only go so far with it. And they had this dysfunctional relationship, but it was a little silly. There was a little bit of lightheartedness to it almost, but at the same time there was this underpinning of, this is actually kind of bad. This is the bad side, folks. This is the side where, the truly dysfunctional, truly frightening relationships that the Joker and Harley really represent. This is where that comes out. And it was just a brilliant piece of storytelling. And again, it's, this is just a backup story. This is just filling in the the extra $1 you're paying to get this for $3.99. But again, it is really a highlight of why all of Scott Snyder's books have been so good on Batman, because they don't necessarily take you to new places and really push the boundaries of the character, but they do such a good job of defining the character and the characters around him that it's very, very engrossing and very, very interesting. And that was really, for me, the highest point in Death of the Family Part 1. Actually, probably was the backup story in a lot of ways, because I really find Harley an interesting character. Anyway, on to just talking about the Joker. So, you don't see the Joker for the majority of this issue, but his presence is felt from the very beginning. You have Harvey Bullock and Jim Gordon at the beginning, while they're talking about sort of the Barbara Gordon aspect that I mentioned before, talking about bad omens in Gotham, the river running backwards, a two-headed lion being born in the Gotham Zoo, and all of this is culminating in a van pulling up to police headquarters and a boot stepping out, and you instantly know who that is. Ironically, Joker wears silly purple clothing a lot of the time, and if you've seen some of the solicits for the covers later in here, you see he's not really wearing that, but at the same time you've got black socks and white shoes, and somehow that is enough. He doesn't need to be as flamboyant as anything more than black shoes and white socks. Anyway, I just thought that was a nice touch. Continuing on, you do have him come in to police headquarters, and again, you never see him, but he goes around, he starts killing people, he's turning out the lights, and it's like a freaking monster movie. It is absolutely frightening. This is a Joker that exists very much in the Saw world, it's very graphic, it's very brutal, and it's very suspenseful. And just in this opening scene where you get the beautiful use of darkness and understating the events that are going on, that really just builds the tension in this issue right at the beginning, and you have the tension going for the whole rest of the issue. You never come down after that opening high. And again, as you continue, you get a little bit more sense of the other bad characters, where they fit into the universe. You do have the big page, as I kind of showed briefly before, where he's sort of calling in the team, and that, this story is going to affect everybody, as it says, of course, on the back cover. And you have some brilliant moments, great Joker moment with this guy on TV. I won't spoil this, but it's a great character moment for the Joker, and really hits home his sense of humor in the most brutal way possible. Really, really well-told moment there. And then again, at the same time, you get Batman's take on that and why, the Joker's so frustrating for him. And as things continue onward, you have many, many deaths, many fatalities. Batman's hunting them down. You get to the Red Hood moment that I talked about. And at the end, you see something that is very disturbing on many levels. Not just because you see the Joker, but you see where the Joker goes and what he does. And all in all, brilliant, brilliant issue. On the strength of this issue, I went right back into my comic book store, because I read this in my car. If you watched my original episode 60, the crappy edition. This is the special edition. I went right back into my comic book store and bought Batgirl. So let's talk about Batgirl. I bought Batgirl because at the beginning of this issue, you had the whole conversation about Barbara Gordon and James Gordon and how she's finding his hiding spots for his cigarettes and getting rid of them. I thought that was absolutely a great character moment. I thought, what a great way to introduce this Joker story in Batgirl, and how that could build up into something. And so I went and I picked up Batgirl, Death in the Family Part 1 for her Part 1, thinking that was what we were going to get. We were going to see sort of her hunting down these cigarette hiding spots, and then somehow the Joker comes in and things get really effed up really fast, right? Not the case at all. Now, that doesn't mean that this book would have been bad because it didn't do what I wanted it to do. It's bad because it's just bad. Yep, I'm going to say it right here. This issue is not worth picking up. Now, I know that there was some kind of Nightfall character storyline that was going on in Batgirl previous to the Death in the Family, and I really wasn't expecting to open this book up and still have the conclusion of that going on. So, I'm not going to talk a ton about this book because it was really, honestly, like one of the worst books that I read this week. Not a fan of this. Gail Simone's writing on this is really trite, really poorly written, just not very good. But in terms of the storyline, basically, and this is the reason why it really doesn't deserve this cover, is you have the conclusion of this Nightfall character. She fights, things happen. If I had read the story arc, I might have some idea, but I don't. So, you know, continuing on, she finally brings this lady down, and then that happens basically until about the last 5 pages. And then the last 5 pages, you have Batgirl 4 hours later, and it's like the start of a whole new story. And again, like, if this is going to be the prologue and you're wrapping up the previous story, like, you should in some way integrate those 2 stories at least. But instead you get the end of one story and then the blatant beginning of a new story. This is almost a backup story in this issue, the whole death in the family part of it, because you suddenly hit the reset button and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, literally, so a quarter of the book, that's just devoted to setting up this death in the family. And again, it just doesn't flow. It's like you finish the book, and then there's more, and surprisingly enough, the 5 pages more justifies this cover. Anyway, really disappointing. The other thing that's disappointing about this is, you know, obviously Joker can't be everywhere at once, but you want him to have more of a hand in things, and you do get a very potentially important moment with Barbara Gordon's family and what's kind of building up with that. But then you have the people that are going to be going after Batgirl in this, and I'm assuming that these are going to be the main antagonist for Batgirl over the next few issues before she gets onto more of the head honchos. And it's just random people, including Grotesque, Gretel, and Mirror. I'm sorry, I just didn't find that exciting. And then you find out that the people who got her, or got these people on her case, are these 3 random people. Now, I don't know who these people are. It may mean something to someone who's been reading Batgirl, but unless they're working for the Joker, I don't give a crap. And frankly, if they are, I don't give a crap, because these people would not work for the Joker. So anyway, all in all, do not pick up Batgirl. It's not worth your time. Just pick up Batman, Death in the Family, Part 1. Scott Snyder's book was absolutely amazing. I'm really excited. And I will be picking up Catwoman next week, or the week after, whenever that comes out. And I'll do a review of that for you as well. Honestly, though, based on the performance of Batgirl, I'm pretty worried about some of these tie-ins. And I'm really disappointed with Batgirl, because the Batgirl tie-in for Night of the Owls was really, really good, and I really enjoyed that. So seeing this one be really lackluster was incredibly disappointing. Alright folks, I will talk to you again soon with my regular weekly haul.